Getting kicked out of Christmas just because I'm a plumber. Yeah, that's when everything unraveled. That was the tipping point. So I cut off the money I'd been sending for my sister's law school. Now she's the one trying to crawl back into my good graces, and honestly, life's quieter without her drama. I've sat on this story a while, trying to figure out how to tell it. So here's the backdrop: I'm 32, single, and run my own plumbing company. Not flashy, sure, but I make solid money doing work that matters. There's pride in fixing real problems, even if it means dealing with busted toilets. I've never been ashamed of it. My sister Lily, 26, is in law school, and every dollar of her tuition came from me. No loans, no scholarships, just my wallet. Her boyfriend? A polished doctor with a smug smile, always acting like he's above everyone. He's actually where this all started. A week before Christmas, my mom calls. Her tone's weird, cautious. I brace myself, thinking something happened to the family dog. Instead, she just says, "You're not coming to Christmas." No explanation, just that it's better for everyone if I sit this one out. Something about keeping the environment comfortable. I pressed for the truth but got vague nonsense about professional circles and appearances. Later, my cousin Zoe filled me in. She overheard Lily telling our mom she didn't want me there because I'm just a plumber, and it might not look good in front of her boyfriend. Yeah. The same sister whose entire education I paid for was embarrassed to be seen with me. Suddenly, it all made sense: why I was never invited to her law school events, why she avoided mentioning my job, and why I never met her boyfriend. And worst of all, my parents backed her. They told me, "You know how these professional circles are, and, maybe next year, once your business has grown." Grown? I already run a legit, six-figure company with a crew and contracts. But none of that mattered, because I didn't wear a suit and tie. That day, I hit a quiet kind of anger, the kind that brings clarity. My family had no problem taking my money while secretly looking down on me. So I pulled the plug. If I wasn't good enough for the table, my money wasn't good enough for her tuition. Let her explain to Mr. Fancy Doctor that her education was paid for by the lowly plumber she disinvited from Christmas. And that was just the beginning. Karma's funny like that, especially when it shows up in the form of student loan bills. After that call, I started revisiting old texts and memories, and the red flags had been there. Like when she threw a party after her first year of law school. I paid for that whole year, but I wasn't invited. She said it was just a small study group thing, but I saw the photos: full-blown dinner party at a swanky spot. Or the time she needed a new laptop, I offered to help pick one out, since I know tech. She just told me to send the money. No questions. No discussion. Looking back, it's obvious. Lily never wanted me involved beyond opening my wallet. She claimed she was too busy to go laptop shopping with me, but let's be real, she just didn't want to be seen in public with her plumber brother. Pathetic. Kind of funny, but mostly sad. Whenever she needed money, which happened often, I was suddenly worth acknowledging. But when it came to including me in her polished, upscale life, silence. Not even a casual check-in. That's when I started digging, with a little help from my cousin Zoe, still deep in the family group chat. Turns out, Lily had been plotting the "leave him out of Christmas" thing for a while. It wasn't last minute, it was planned. She told our parents her boyfriend Ethan came from a high society family, and having a plumber around might hurt her image. Then Zoe sent me screenshots. Actual receipts. Lily wrote, word for word, "I just don't want Ethan to think our family isn't, educated. It could affect how his family views me, they have so many legal connections." Educated. That one stopped me cold. I almost laughed. I wanted to fire back, "You only have an education because your uneducated plumber brother is paying $39,000 a year for it." But I stayed quiet. I was already putting a plan together. Charging in angry wasn't the move, I needed to be smart. The more I thought about it, the clearer it got. This wasn't about one holiday, it was years of being treated like some family embarrassment. Good enough to pay for her future, not good enough to be part of her life. People think plumbing is just dirty work, but there's serious training involved. I went through an apprenticeship, passed exams, and still do ongoing certifications. Honestly, I've probably spent more time mastering my craft than she has with case law. I chose this path. Right out of high school, I busted my ass, earned my licenses, built my company from scratch. Now I've got 3 vans, 2 full-time guys, and more clients than we can handle. But to my family, I'm just the guy who deals with toilets. And all those extra hours I worked. All the weekends I skipped, the gear I didn't buy, the retirement savings I delayed, just so Lily's tuition was paid on time. Meanwhile, she was trying to erase me from the picture before bringing her boyfriend home. Then Zoe dropped another bomb, Ethan's family. They wouldn't have cared. His uncle's a contractor who built their house. Lily just assumed they'd judge me, because she does. That's how she's always seen me. I let it stew for a few days. Zoe kept me updated from the group chat, they'd quietly removed me, to avoid awkwardness. Lily was in there gushing about Ethan's family, talking internships and law firm connections. No one spoke up for me. Not one person. That's when the light bulb went off. If they were so eager to pretend I didn't exist, fine, I'd help them. Starting with cutting off Lily's tuition. But I didn't want to blow up. My family loves painting me as the emotional one, the angry one. So I waited. Her next payment was due in 2 weeks. Normally, she'd start dropping hints, just checking in about tuition, that kind of thing. This time, nothing. She probably assumed I'd pay like always, even after the Christmas snub. She'd set up the school's online portal when she first enrolled and gave me the login. So I logged in. $19,400 due for the spring semester. That's when it really hit me. That's what I was paying for someone who tried to erase me. Do you know how many clogged drains and broken pipes I have to fix to earn that kind of money? A lot. So I picked up the phone and called her. I didn't want to send a text, I wanted to hear her reaction. She picked up after a few rings, already sounding annoyed, like I was interrupting something way more important. "Hey," she snapped. "Hey," I said calmly. "Just checking in about your tuition, it's due soon, right?" And just like that, her tone flipped, sweet, bubbly, fake. "Thanks for remembering. It's due on the 15th. You're still good to cover it, right?" Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't tried to erase me from her life. I paused. "Actually, I've been thinking about what you told Mom and Dad. About how a plumber for a brother might not be the best look around Ethan's family." Silence. "Then, who told you that?" Her voice cracked. "Does it matter?" I asked. "Is it true?" She jumped into damage control. "It's not what you think. Ethan's family is very particular. His dad's a judge, his mom's into all these charity boards, so your fix was pretending I don't exist. Because I'm just a plumber." "That's not fair," she said. I need them to take me seriously. You don't understand how these circles work." I laughed. "Guess not. I'm just a dumb plumber, right?" Then I laid it out. First year, $39K. This year's $19,400. Laptop. Textbooks. That overpriced study program. It's about $65,000. All from your so-called embarrassment of a brother. "Why are you doing this?" she whined. "You said you'd support my dreams." I did. When you acted like I was family. But if I'm too embarrassing for dinner, then my money's too embarrassing for tuition. That's when she lost it. A screech like a dying pterodactyl. You can't do that. The payment's due in 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do? I shrugged. Ask Ethan. He's a doctor, right? Or is my dirty plumber money the only kind you accept? Then came the sobbing. Please, she cried. I'll tell Mom and Dad I was wrong. You can come to Christmas. Just don't do this. No, I said. I'm not interested in Christmas. Wouldn't want to embarrass you. Consider this my final gift to a family too ashamed to share a meal with me. Then I hung up and blocked her. No hesitation. I poured a drink and waited. Because I knew the fallout was coming. Sure enough, Mom. 5 missed calls. When I finally picked up, she was crying, diving straight into the guilt trip. You're tearing the family apart, she sobbed. You're destroying Lily's future over a silly misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I half laughed. She literally told you she's ashamed of my job, the same job paying her tuition. She didn't mean it like that, Mom insisted. She looks up to you, sweetheart. Looks up to me. She kicked me out of Christmas because I'm a plumber. That's admiration. Then came the pivot. Think how this could affect her relationship with Ethan. His family could open real doors. Oh, so Ethan's the priority now? I snapped. Your son, the one paying the bills, doesn't make the cut for dinner, but Ethan's the golden ticket? Mom stammered, backpedaling hard. You're blowing this out of proportion. Classic. Make me the dramatic one. Ignore the actual betrayal. Then Dad called. No tears, just anger. You're being selfish and petty. You're going to ruin her future over some tantrum. I laughed. So I'm the bad guy for not wanting to throw thousands at someone who's ashamed of me? Explain how that makes sense. We raised you to be better than this, he snapped. Oh yeah? I said. Is this what better looks like? Cutting me out of Christmas to suck up to your daughter's boyfriend? Then he gave me a speech about making sacrifices for the family. Apparently, that includes tossing your son aside if it means Lily can cozy up to Ethan's connections. But you know what really stuck with me through all of it? Not a single person actually apologized. Not once. Nobody said sorry or admitted they'd done me wrong. It was all flipped around, like I was the one being unreasonable, like I was the dramatic one for standing up for myself. Suddenly I was the petty, prideful problem in the family. Then came the flying monkeys. My aunt called to say how deeply disappointed she was in me. My uncle fired off a text telling me I needed to man up and be the bigger person. Even Zoe, yeah, the same cousin who spilled all the tea in the first place, messaged me, saying maybe I was going a little too far with it. But funny thing, none of them offered to help cover Lily's tuition. Not one of them opened their wallet. Wild how that works, huh? And here's the best part, Lily finally came clean to Ethan about everything. I guess she figured he'd swoop in like a white knight and save the day. But according to Zoe, who's still my go-to for family updates, that didn't go quite the way Lily pictured. Ethan didn't blow it off or brush it under the rug, he got quiet. Real quiet. Started asking questions. Stuff like, why didn't you ever tell me you had a brother, and, why haven't I met him? Then came the big one, wait, your brother's been paying for law school this whole time. Why? He couldn't understand why she'd hide me just because I happened to work with my hands. And the irony? Turns out, Ethan's uncle, the same guy who built their family's house, started out as a plumber too, before working his way up into contracting. Ethan even helped him on job sites during high school summers. So yeah, he didn't see anything wrong with my profession, Lily just assumed he would, because that's how she sees me. And the more she tried to explain herself, the worse it got. She started rambling about appearances and maintaining a professional image and how certain social circles have expectations. But all she really did was dig herself into a deeper hole. Ethan didn't take it well. He told her straight up he was shocked, said he couldn't believe she'd go out of her way to hide and disrespect her own brother, especially the one who'd been financially supporting her dream the whole time. The next day, he told her he needed space. Said her behavior showed him a side of her he wasn't sure he could ignore. Honestly, I was surprised. Didn't expect the guy to have that kind of backbone. But credit where it's due, he saw the red flags and called them out. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up. Non-stop. Mom started calling on a loop, bouncing between sobbing and begging. Dad alternated between shouting and guilt-tripping. And Lily? She was relentless. Tried calling from every number under the sun, girl had more burner phones than a cartel informant on the run. Eventually, I just powered down my phone. I couldn't take the noise anymore. Every voicemail, every message, it was the same song and dance. I was destroying the family, ruining Lily's life, tearing everything apart, just because I wouldn't keep handing over money like the family ATM machine. But I'd made up my mind. I was done being used. If speaking up for myself made me the bad guy in their little narrative, then fine, I'd rather be the villain than keep playing the doormat. A few days later, Ethan showed up at Lily's apartment. I'm guessing she thought he was coming back to patch things up. But nope, he came to shut it all down. He told her flat out he couldn't be with someone who'd treat her own family like that. Said it made him question what kind of person she really was and whether her values lined up with the kind of future he wanted. And just like that, Lily's golden little plan came crashing down. Next thing I know, she's blowing up my phone again, screaming, crying, shouting from yet another new number. I swear, at this point, she's got a drawer full of prepaid SIM cards. She shrieked that I'd ruined her life. That Ethan dumped her because of me. That everything was falling apart and it was all my fault. I actually laughed. No, Lily, I said calmly. Ethan left because he finally saw who you really are. All I did was stop helping you hide it. That's when she went dark. Started threatening me. Said she'd tell people I assaulted her back in high school. Said she'd file a fraud complaint against my business with the Better Business Bureau. Said she'd make sure everyone saw me as the terrible brother. I just shrugged and said, go for it. Tell the whole world your brother's a monster because he checks notes, paid for your law school while you pretended he didn't exist. Let's see how well that story plays out. Then, just like clockwork, she flipped back to begging. Full circle. She sobbed about not being able to afford school, said she'd have to drop out, that her life was over, her friends would ditch her, her future was doomed. I just said, maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I wasn't worth acknowledging. Then I hung up again. No hesitation this time. Zoe, my ever-reliable family informant, told me Lily totally unraveled after that. She started showing up at our parents' place at random hours, bawling her eyes out, telling them her life was falling apart. Apparently, she'd been telling everyone at law school that her boyfriend was covering her tuition, so when he walked away instead, she was absolutely screwed. The tuition deadline was closing in fast, and she had no plan. She tried applying for emergency student loans, but those take time to process, and, surprise surprise, she'd left it all too late. On top of that, she needed a cosigner, and our parents? Yeah, their credit's been in the gutter for years. Not shocking, considering they've always tried to act like they're way better off than they actually are. Then, one afternoon, I get a text from Zoe, 911. Lily just posted on Facebook that she's heading to your shop to confront you. Looks unhinged, she added. I barely had time to warn my crew before Lily came storming in like a Category 5 meltdown, hair a mess, makeup smeared, mascara streaked down her face like some kind of war paint. She had that full-blown crazy ex energy, except unfortunately, she's not an ex, she's my sister. How could you do this to me, she shouted, right there in front of my staff and 3 customers. I'm your sister. You're supposed to take care of me. I tried to keep it calm, suggested we step outside or at least lower the volume, but she wasn't having it. She came there to make a scene, and she was going to get her audience. You're ruining my life, she wailed. All because your little feelings got hurt. You're so selfish. One of my longtime customers, a sweet older lady who's been with us for years, stood up from her chair and looked Lily straight in the eye. Excuse me, young lady, she said, in the most polite but ice-cold tone I've ever heard, is this the same brother who's been paying for your education? Lily turned around like she'd been slapped. She looked stunned. That's none of your business, she snapped. Well, the older woman replied, still calm as ever, you made it everyone's business the second you barged in here yelling like a banshee. And if what I'm hearing is true, that you kicked your own brother out of Christmas because you were embarrassed by his job, but you still expected him to fund your education, well, where I come from, that's called biting the hand that feeds you. The look on Lily's face. Absolutely priceless. She had no idea how to handle being called out by someone who wasn't family, someone she couldn't manipulate or guilt into submission. But she pulled herself together quickly and cranked up the waterworks. You don't understand, she sobbed, playing the victim card hard. He's doing this to punish me. He's just jealous of my success, he's trying to ruin my future. I couldn't help but laugh. Success? You mean getting dumped by your boyfriend? Or maybe how you're on the verge of dropping out of school? Or is it the part where you just humiliated yourself in front of my entire staff and 3 customers? That kind of success. She snapped back, at least I'm trying to do something with my life, not just playing with pipes all day like some. She cut herself off mid-sentence, probably realizing she was about one insult away from getting booted out completely. That's when Julian stepped in. He's my lead tech, been with me since the early days, and one of the calmest, most grounded guys I know. Big guy, quiet voice, but when he speaks, people listen. He walked over slowly and said in a firm, no-nonsense tone, "Ma'am, I think it's time you left. Your brother's so-called pipe playing paid for my son's toys, my wife's car, and apparently, your law school, too. So maybe instead of yelling at him, you should be thanking him." Lily looked around and finally started to realize she wasn't getting the sympathy she came looking for. Everyone in the room was watching her, and not one face looked impressed. If anything, they looked embarrassed for her. But of course, she wasn't ready to back down just yet. She turned to me, eyes blazing, and said, "Fine. Then I'll tell everyone what kind of brother you really are. I'll blast this all over social media." I didn't flinch. "Go right ahead," I said, cool as ever. "Just make sure you include the part where you disinvited your own brother from Christmas because his job embarrassed you, but still expected him to keep paying your tuition. I'm sure that'll win you tons of sympathy." And with that, she stormed out, full dramatic exit. But not before she kicked over our business card display, knocked a clipboard off the front desk, and shoved over the sandwich board sign on her way out. Real professional behavior. Real classy. After she left, the older woman, the one who stood up for me earlier, came over and gently touched my arm. "You know," she said with a kind smile, "my late husband was a plumber. He supported all 3 of ours through college, and not once were they ashamed of the work he did." Then she looked me right in the eye and added, "You're doing the right thing, honey. Sometimes family needs to learn the hard way that respect is a two-way street." That moment stuck with me. Once the dust had settled, I gathered my crew and told them the whole story. I figured they deserved to know what just happened and why my sister had come in like a wrecking ball. They were all supportive, every single one of them. Julian even cracked a joke, "Well, our Thanksgiving drama sounds pretty boring compared to this." But, of course, Lily wasn't done yet. Nope. She went full scorched earth mode. She started calling every single member of the extended family, spinning this sob story about how her cruel, heartless brother was out to destroy her future. Said I was bitter, jealous, unstable, you name it. Thing is, family drama spreads like wildfire. Everyone loves throwing fuel on it, but nobody wants to help put it out. First on the guilt trip express was Aunt Nora. Yes, her name really is Nora, and yes, she's exactly the type of person you'd expect with a name like that. She called me up, full lecture mode, going on and on about family responsibilities, and how selfish I was being. This, mind you, coming from the same woman who borrowed $6,000 from me a few years back for emergency dental work and still hasn't paid back a single cent. Funny how that works. The conversation with Aunt Nora went pretty much exactly how you'd expect. How could you do this to your sister? She snapped over the phone. She's just trying to better herself. I chuckled. Funny, I don't remember you offering to help pay for her law school. And while we're at it, you still owe me for those teeth, by the way. There was this long, awkward pause on the other end. That's different, she stammered. How dare you bring that up? Is it, though? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, this whole family loves to talk about supporting each other, but when it's time to actually step up, everyone suddenly disappears. It's all excuses and empty words. Click. She hung up on me. I guess the truth hurt more than that root canal. Next up was Uncle Leo, my dad's brother. He's one of those guys who loves to brag about his investment portfolio but somehow forgets his wallet every time the dinner check shows up. He called to give me a little lecture on family investments. Think of it like investing in your sister's future, he said. Once she's a successful lawyer, she'll be able to help you out. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Help me? You mean the same sister who couldn't even stand to have me at the Christmas table because I'm a plumber? Yeah, sure, tell me again how she's going to come running to repay me out of gratitude. He fumbled for words. Well, maybe you could just help her finish school, and she could pay you back later. Great idea, I said. So why don't you lend her the money? You're always talking about those amazing returns from your investments. Here's your chance to invest in the family. Suddenly, he had another call to take. Imagine that. What really got me, though, was how not one single person who called to scold me actually offered to help Lily financially. Everyone had strong opinions about what I should be doing with my money, but none of them ever reached for their own wallets. Anyway, I was done with her. Done with all of it. So yeah, just to wrap up this whole wild ride, my sister got me kicked out of Christmas for being just a plumber, and in return, I stopped funding her law school. That's it. That's the story in a nutshell. Since then, a lot of people have messaged me asking how it all ended. Well, here's the final chapter of the drama. Apparently, Lily, still desperate, showed up uninvited at Ethan's parents' house. She tried to throw together some tear-soaked sob story about losing everything, hoping they'd swoop in and save her. But, of course, she left out the tiny detail about hiding her brother because his job wasn't good enough. Unfortunately for her, Ethan happened to be there, and he filled them in on the real story. From what I heard through a mutual friend, Ethan's dad, the judge, looked her dead in the eye and said, "Young lady, if you're serious about becoming a lawyer, you should know that trying to manipulate people with half-truths isn't the best way to start your legal career." Yeah. That one stung. Hard. In the end, Lily had to drop out of law school. Couldn't get private loans without a cosigner. And, big surprise, no one in the family was willing to cosign anything for her anymore. That ship had sailed. Even Grandma got involved at one point. She told my parents straight up that they should be ashamed of how they treated me. After that, even my mom and dad backed off and stopped asking me for favors. I guess when Grandma calls you out, it finally sinks in. As for Lily, she's working as a paralegal now at some small-time firm. Zoe says she keeps telling everyone it's just temporary, that she's planning to go back to law school soon. But honestly, we all know that ship has sailed, too. Me? I'm doing better than ever. Business is booming. I added 2 more trucks, hired 4 new guys, and we're booked out weeks in advance. Funny how things work out. And get this, Ethan and I actually hang out sometimes. Turns out he's a pretty decent guy when there's no family drama hanging in the air. We've even grabbed a few beers with his uncle, Julian, the contractor. Good people, solid conversation, no judgment. My parents did try to reach out again around Thanksgiving. But, of course, it wasn't to say sorry, it was because they needed help covering their mortgage. I told them maybe they should ask their successful lawyer daughter for help. Oh wait. Truth is, I feel lighter than I have in years. No more pretending. No more being treated like the family's ATM. No more walking on eggshells just because I don't wear a suit to work. I've got peace, purpose, and the respect of the people who matter, my crew, my customers, and the folks who see value in real work. So yeah, thanks for letting me vent, Reddit. Sometimes it takes a bunch of internet strangers to remind you you're not crazy for setting boundaries. And in case anyone needs to hear it, you're not selfish for expecting respect. You're not dramatic for refusing to be used. And you're sure as hell not wrong for cutting off people who only see your worth when your wallet's open. Cheers to that.